Welcome into the Players Only meeting here on the Sports Source, sportsource.tv, our YouTube channel. Blue Smoke Cigar brings you this segment every week, and folks, they're located at the corner of Kingston Pike and South Peters Road. Go in there, get your own personal locker, get the membership to where you get 15% off their elite selection of cigars, 10% off at McScrooge's Wine and Liquor, which you can then also put the cigars and the wine and liquor back in your personalized locker. You've also got HD TVs back there, a lounge area, card tables, golf simulators. Man, this place is the place to relax if you enjoy a good cigar. Just trust me on that. Blue Smoke Cigar, these people, I've dealt with them, and the folks at Smokin' Joe's who opened this place, I've dealt with them for 15 years, and just good people. So if you enjoy a cigar, as I do, check them out, Blue Smoke Cigar. All right, want to welcome in all of our VFLs. We'll start down there. Daniel Hood came in with a broken foot today. I appreciate it. Every week you come in with a new injury. We got Sterling Hinton right here. We got Brian Randolph right there. And thanks for driving in. This guy's driving in every weekend from way off in the hinterlands. And right here we got Will Overstreet. I'm going to start. We're going to let you guys say whatever you want to say. We're going to just kind of open it up here. But I'm going to start with a question I got yesterday. What is the possibility of Coach Pruitt making some coaching changes at year's end? He seems so frustrated. Could changes be in order? I don't know that changes are necessary, but I will throw it out there as a possibility. I would say it's possible. Your guys' thoughts?
I think it's always possible, especially on a losing team. You don't know how everybody's reacting in the locker room and after practice and when they're in meetings. So when you're losing, frustration tempers rise, so you could be tired of somebody. Frankly, they may be ready to go. I don't think the biggest problem is where we can judge this year is on coaching staff. I think what everybody's frustrated is they wish they could go through a free agency period and move a few guys off the roster and go pick a few guys up off the wire. Because right now it's hard to judge a lot of coaching when the talent level is such a depleted level. And I know we've said, next year you can't say that, you can't say that. Listen, the offensive line, if I really started thinking back about it, when we had Josh Dobbs as quarterback, and all these great players, Alvin Kamara, everybody kept saying the offensive line was getting better and getting better. No, it was great players making the guys miss. For the last, I don't know how many years, 5, 6 years, whatever Bush Jones's term was here, he probably had the worst offensive lines in the history of this school accumulated together. And now we're coming off and seeing another historic terrible offensive line. We've got to get out of that. That's one thing that has to change. That is not. It's going to take some time, but that has to change. Just thinking back to that and just hitting that of how many years, when they ask us to do mic check here on the show, I always say the offensive line sucks. It's kind of my one repeat thing. And I was just thinking about it. I've been doing that for years now. This is a bad group. That is like the number one place that we have to get better. Otherwise, I don't care what coaching staff, what players you rotate in here. It's trouble. I
asked a question a few weeks ago on the show when the offensive line was looking bad. If it's me, and everybody on the show agreed, which surprised me, if it's me this year and I'm recruiting and you're looking to fill this need and that need and this need, screw all other needs. Screw them. Hell with them. Line. Focus on the line. If you think, well, we need to sign 6, hell with that. Sign 12. And if that means you don't get a running back over here, tough shit. You need linemen. Or else the running back isn't going to be worth crap. So we've seen it time and again. If I'm them, I'm recruiting linemen until my eyes pop out of my head. And I know there are going to be people saying, that's ridiculous. Fine. How good have you been these past few years with no lines? And next year, here's the thing. I know what people are going to say because we've heard it before. How can you be young 2 years in a row? You're going to hear that next year because this year you're young in the secondary. Next year, those guys have some experience. But the one group that's played better this year, that's improved the most, defensive line, gone. So you're going to be all young. So you better go out there and recruit the hell out of it. I know they are, but I'm just saying I would go over the top on linemen.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see a wide receiver get a scholarship. I mean, that's
just take it to the extreme.
Just go away.
Guys, your thoughts on coaching changes being necessary, anything like that?
Y'all hit on the head. Offensive line is definitely the primary point that we need to get some changes in. We need some new people, some new recruits, but I think coaching changes are definitely necessary, especially on the offensive end. Right now, we're going to get some freshmen here on the offensive line. That's not going to be able to help us beat Alabama or compete with teams like LSU and stuff like that with some freshman offensive linemen. So until we can develop our new offensive linemen, we're going to need to change our playbook up on offense and throw in some RPOs, some shifts, some motions, and you're going to have to get trickery in there because we ain't got the talent.
The interesting thing is your highest paid assistant, so it'd be hard to blow him out, is Tyson Helton, your offensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
And your offensive line coach is longtime Jeremy Pruitt friend, Will Friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel like an offensive Alabama playbook ain't going to work if you don't have Alabama players. So until we get some Alabama players, yeah, we're going to need a different offense.
Well, I got to disagree with that, and I just go back to Tennessee history in 2011. You know, who's one of the top offense coordinators in the country right now? Jim Chaney. How many points a game did he put up in 2011? I can promise you it's not a lot because I remember playing defense with that offense saying, like, can y'all just punt? You know,
like you said today during the show. Yeah.
Like we literally had that conversation with him because it was when we played Kentucky that year, it was like we knew that if we gave up more than 10 points, that we were going to lose the football game. We gave up 13. And 7 of them came off an offensive turnover, and we lost that game to Kentucky. And so Chaney's a great coach because look what he did in 2012 when we had Sal as a defense coordinator. And so you gotta weigh that stuff out. But
I don't think it's benefited. Personally, I think the whole idea when you got this staff was, it's the fantastic staff and you're going to recruit with these guys. If everything's being put on recruiting, and Pruitt every week saying these guys aren't good enough, we've got to get better players, he's putting everything on recruiting. I don't know that it helps you if you make any changes on your staff this year, but I do wonder, you know, pressure busts pipes.
Yep.
And this is no knock on Jeremy Pruitt, but we've said this all off season. He's a first-time head coach, meaning he's never managed a whole staff like this, never managed offense before. So you got to learn. I've been a marketing director at a couple of TV stations. I was better the second time than the first time in terms of dealing with people because you have to learn you guys aren't motivated the same way. I got to motivate Will one way. I got to motivate Brian one way. I was better that second time around. He's got to learn. So how is what is the relationship between those guys in an unhappy losing locker room? You may have some guys that leave without him firing them. It's a possibility.
Oh, I think that's more likely than anything, really, truly, just because losing, people are going to look like they go, you know, offensive line coach may sit there and go, yeah, I don't care if we bring in all the world freshmen in the world. I don't want to be responsible for coaching this again. You know, I could see that being frustrated enough and being wanting to go somewhere else.
But I think one of the things that I worry about too, and of course with Fulmer being the AD, I mean, I personally know a couple of coaches that he blocked from coming to Tennessee that Pruitt wanted to hire. And so then you're talking about if you have some of these guys, and maybe, and I don't know how many total that Pruitt had in that situation, but I know there was a couple of defense coaches that he wanted to bring.
With the Kiffin stank on them.
Yeah, they had the Kiffin stank that Fulmer just said and blocked him from coming in. And so, you know, Fulmer, part of this is going to go back on Fulmer too if he didn't get to bring in the coaches that he wanted.
Well, that's another thing long-term to watch that I've always thought was going to be interesting because, I mean, there's only one other former football coach who's an AD in the country. It's Barry Alvarez. His program is usually pretty good. The downside is he can't keep coaches because he's like, I'd do it like this. I'd get in there and do that. You notice every time there's a coaching change, who makes himself the interim for the bowl game is Barry Alvarez. So how well do Pruitt and Fulmer get along? So far it's been good from all outward evidence. There's some blips we've heard about things behind the scenes, but you know that's a big picture view on their relationship moving forward. Which, if Philip Fulmer, if they'd hired if Buzz Peterson was back as your AD, I'd wonder about the relationship between him and your basketball coach, for example. Let's run through some stuff that I've seen. Will there be any discussion on your show of James Carville's allegations that the SEC office in Bama, they're lining up the targeting issues to try and fix it for Alabama? Well, first of all, here in East Tennessee, I'm guessing this is the only thing most people would agree with James Carville on. I'm not, just here in East Tennessee, I'm going to bet there aren't a lot of people running around going, you know what James Carville said. But because he, as a huge monster, out of his mind LSU fan, he suggested the league pull that guy from the previous week, hit him with a targeting so he couldn't play against Alabama. Here's why that's crap. They had a chance to pull another guy yesterday, and they went back, looked at it, and said that's not targeting. If they wanted to set him up, not to mention the fact, did you watch the game? They could have brought Tyrann Mathieu back and put him out there for LSU. They're still getting their ass kicked by Alabama. They're just better. Look, you're like me. We've talked about it. I don't like ref talk. You know, if you don't want the refs to make a decision, take it out of their hands. You guys, what is your thoughts on referees and complaining about refs? Because it's done everywhere, every fan base. It happens. Some coaches do it. I think it's natural. It's part of it. I think it's excuse making. What are your thoughts?
Well, as a player, my thought process on all referees is that they're all are terrible. Some are just worse. So that's just what I thought of. Now, as a grown man, not playing anymore, they have probably the toughest job in a contest as the head coach has. They have to make a call on every play to want to be fair, to keep the game moving, and what's even more incredible, they have to find a way to even get time constraints so each play keeps moving within the time frame of a television block for the game to be aired. So they have a lot of responsibility on them, but they signed up for the job. And I believe some have to get better, and some are just terrible. Bottom line, that's the best way to play these contests, the best way to play these games. And I actually applaud the referees, but my mind state is what it is.
About refs.
At some point, I want to see just like an open forum to where they get judged publicly, like players do.
The
like
problem,
coaches do.
the SEC did that a couple years ago, and they put out reviews, and the guy got death threats at his home.
Oh, yeah.
You can't. Fans are too nuts. Some fans.
I think they need to fire them occasionally. I think
They do.
Yeah, and
But maybe more often.
maybe more often, and maybe kind of saying, here's the
NFL
case
whacked a
against.
guy last week, I think.
Yeah, I think when you make a bad, you got to start paying for it more and know that it got taken care of. I think occasionally you feel like they make them and there's no repercussions because of bad, terrible calls.
The reason I take up for refs is this. Whenever people call in here in Knoxville, I'll just give the Knoxville example. It'll be the same in Boston, be the same in San Francisco, be the same wherever. But when people call in, all the calls are always against Tennessee.
Yeah.
They never have to see a bad call that goes Tennessee. That doesn't happen. If the bad calls are only always against your team, then you're probably not seeing a fair view of what's being called.
You probably wouldn't make a very good ref.
Not to mention this conspiracy theory that the SEC is out to save things for Alabama.
Yeah, they don't need to do that.
I don't think they need it. But the other thing is this. This is my view on all conspiracy theories, and you can take that whether that's political, sports, whatever. You're telling me that these refs whisper. Now, you're going to take care of Alabama, aren't you? Yeah. Or in basketball, you're going to take care of Kentucky, right? Yeah, we need the TV money. Yeah. Those guys would then own the league because all they have to do is come out and say, yeah, Commissioner, I want $1 million for my silence, or else I rat you out and bring the whole thing down.
Wow.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense. If they were in on it, you think that many people are going to be in on it, it's never going to leak? Think it never leaked. Nobody's ever going to leak. You can't keep things straight in a White House without people leaking. Yeah. But in terms of an SEC commissioner's office,
nobody's going to write a book and make any money off of that.
Well, that's right. Well, they may. At this conference, you never know. But I'm not saying this White House, all White Houses have leaks. Yeah. So the idea that the SEC conference office wouldn't have leaks is just, it's absurd. It's silly.
Well, what I like to have happen, is they do have a tough job. Refs deal with players, fans, press, the whole nine. I say pay them more. And that way you can ask more of them to prepare to referee a contest. Because their job has gotten more intense over the past 5 years than ever. So they have a lot of responsibility on their hands. Just like players.
Make it a full-time job.
Make it a full-time job. Pay them what money's out there. All this television money that's happening for the SEC.
That's true.
It's out there.
That wouldn't be a bad gig if you're
working.
Make it
happen because these guys are now responsible for lives.
How do I get that?
They're responsible for all these new rule changes to try to make the game fair. They're responsible for, this targeting thing, I haven't figured it out yet. But maybe it's not.
I bet the refs, you know who I think hates the targeting call? Refs.
The refs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
especially the
you know how to call it, right? If you hear a big hit, you throw the flag.
Well, and the idea is they tell them if there's a question, throw the flag because we'll sort it out with the video. Right. Brian, look, this is one that drives people crazy. Yeah. Interference calls. You were a part of them. How many times do you see guys jostling? There's no flag. The next time, there's a flag on the defense. Next time, flag on the offense.
True.
It's all about where this particular ref is standing. He doesn't have 58 angles. Where he's standing and seeing it live and how he views it. Who's chucking who. That's got to be frustrating for you to be out there one-on-one on an island and you got some guy making a call, but at the same time, you've probably been hurt by it, probably been helped by it.
And you're never going to solve the problem because there's so many subjective calls, holding, pass interference, definitely targeting.
Now, offensive holding, they never call.
That's every play.
Why should they?
Offensive line has never held in the SEC very much.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying about refs, because their job has gotten more intense, I mean, you don't have any part-time, full-time coaches. You don't have any part-time assistant coaches, part-time head coaches. Refereeing has to be paid more now because they need to spend more time on their craft. They can't just spend a game or a day before the game. Have to learn that, like the angle, where they're standing, where to be. Learn more of the game plan of the two teams that have to ref that week, because it absolutely is important and imperative that they make proper calls during each week, because it can determine the outcome of the contest.
And I think more importantly than that too, you got players' careers on the line.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Will's had it too. I mean, there was we were playing MTSU. I got dove in at my knee when I was looking at the other way, trying to literally take my knee out. There's never even a high-low called or anything, and so I got lucky. But you know, that umpire sitting there looking at it, just nope. Okay, cool.
Let me cover one last thing. We got to get out of here, but we got some. I knew we'd get this. You know, the team's got its 4th win, and we're being accused of being too negative. I watch all Vol talk shows, and I am so sick of watching your negative remarks. I sure hope our players watch and see how you guys portray them. They know how bad they are, so pick a positive somewhere, anywhere. Pennington and Himes need to move to Alabama.
For real.
You ask us to pick a positive? Is that what we're doing now?
Pick positive. Sterling does.
I'm picking positive. I will take an ugly win over a pretty loss every day, twice on Sunday. So, yeah, I'm happy we won the game. I want us to get better. I'm tired of these pretty losses like last week to South Carolina. I'm tired of those. I love wins.
Kyle Phillips,
I don't care how we get them.
Kyle Phillips has been playing.
I'm not asking you to pick positives. I'm saying that's horse shit.
Oh, okay.
There ain't no
I'm
positive.
saying this team's got 4 wins. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke at people.
Yeah.
What you do.
I mean,
that ain't what you do.
You could pick a player or two and pick a positive, but
And
this
we
team
do.
overall is not good enough to say anything good about. I mean, very much good about, because Charlotte 49ers came in here and had as much talent on that field, and everybody on this
According to
panel
the
would
coach.
agree. Everybody on this panel would agree was one player away on their team from beating you in your house yesterday on homecoming.
And I think it's negative just because, like, it's not the fact that we're not that good, it's we're not playing hard. So I don't think that.
And let me tell you, Willie Raincloud's side is not actually negative. We take offense every once in a while with being negative, Raincloud. We're realistic. When the truth is out there and you're this bad, we're going to call it bad.
Team Sunshine's grimacing.
Well, no, I
mean, that's the truth. We're calling it like we see it.
But here's the thing.
Judge anyone's opinion. All I'm saying is I love ugly wins. Give me more.
Well, sure. Okay.
Sure. But I'm saying, but we're calling it.
Wouldn't you rather have a pretty win?
I'm not calling it.
Absolutely. But
Here's the thing. But we do a segment called, what's it called? You guys do it? 3 up, 3 down.
Yeah.
Forced to find 3 up. So there's your, why don't you look for positives? 3 up, 3 down. But here's the thing. Very positive after they beat Auburn.
True.
Yeah.
Very positive. If they win, we say good things. If they lose, we say bad things. We just call it like it is. And it's frustrating from my perspective, because when a new coach comes in, everybody's positive, and all they hear is your negatives. When you're saying positives and negatives, they only hear the negative. In 3 years, when they're all tired of Jeremy Pruitt, then we're going to be saying, here are the positives, here are the negatives, and they're going to be saying, you're a bunch of homers, because all they're going to hear are the positives. I've done this through coach after coach after coach, and I'm not going to sit here and tell that's why this show is number 1, is because these guys can say whatever they want. I throw them questions, they can argue, they can debate with each other, they can debate with me. We throw out the good and the bad, and I don't look at it as, I had somebody tell me a long time ago, the truth has no polarity. It's just truth. And if you want me to sit here and tell you that there's a lot of positives from a 4-win football team, I'm not going to do that. and I don't think most of you guys
Not
do.
this one.
No, especially after yesterday.
But I can assure you, I think I can speak to everyone on this panel, including our anchor here, John Pennington. We want those truths to be more a positive message to our fans out here. We
Be a lot more fun.
We want
Oh
that.
man,
to happen.
it'd be fun. It'd be
That'd
fun.
be great.
It would be fun if there was a game I could come in here and I could say the left side of our offensive line lined up and whipped that other
True.
side of that defense, and we're in their secondary most of the game.
can't do
We
it,
haven't
though.
been able to do that for years.
Gotta be real.
Although, well, no, wait a second. They've had 2 9-win seasons here, and I got crap for saying 9 wins is a good year. No, championships are bust. We took all kinds of crap. You're a homer for Butch Jones saying 9 wins is enough. So which is it? Who am I trying to please here? So we just say what we call it as it is. When you're 9-4, that beats the hell out of 4-8. I'll tell you that. Is that 13-0? No. So we're going to say these are good, these are bad. And when you're 4-8, there's more bad than there is good.
Rain Cloud side's winning this year
Yeah,
right
true.
now.
But I
Sadly,
love when he wins.
But it would
I
be-
love when he wins.
But here's the thing.
Yes.
And after they beat Auburn, we still did 3 up, 3 down. You guys had to find 3 guys who were down, even
Yeah.
though the whole show was Mr. Positive.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
just-
love. It's all love.
don't be
It's
So
all
anyway,
love and
occasionally, once a
passion.
year or two, I have to explain to people what this show is. And it's not about making anybody feel good. That's not what we do here. If you want that, there are shows that'll tell you every offseason, I think they're going to win 10 games. And then you're going to get pissed off by game 3 when they've already lost 3 games and they can't win 10. You know, we don't blow smoke.
Do
And we're not
people
going
get
to
mad
blow
at me,
smoke.
John P., when I say we're going undefeated and going to win the national championship every year? I say it
I
every
get
year.
pissed at you.
Oh, there it is.
But we call you out. But here's the thing.
But at least we have somebody on the other side of that says it's not going to
But
happen.
that's how I feel.
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
But as a panel, we cover all. That's a
Absolutely.
perfect example. As a panel, we cover all angles.
Absolutely.
Gotta be
Anyway,
real.
you guys do a great job,
Oh,
even
yeah.
though you're
You
negative.
do an excellent
you guys
job,
are all
John,
so-
keeping us together.
And
Appreciate
she
you.
said you guys, so Sterling, you need to stop being so negative. All right.
Hey, I'm with the team. You're guilty through association.
Daniel Hood, Sterling Hinton, Brian Randolph, Will Overstreet, I appreciate your honesty each and every week.
Oh, yes.
And thank you for being here, guys. I know that there aren't 4 guys in Knoxville who would rather cover wins than the 4 that are sitting
man.
right here. So hopefully in the future we're going to get some. Hopefully they get one against Kentucky. We'll see.
Hey.
All right. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next Sunday right on the Sports Source WATE 6 at 11 a.m. See you then.